many a time.
Okay, sorry to break up the deafening silence. I'd like to bring the September 24th, 2024 Planning Board meeting to order. Karen, if you could take a roll call, please.
Claudia Bogan.
Here.
Jim Callahan.
Here.
Kevin Donovan.
Here.
Dave Edmonds.
Here.
Rob Klein.
Here.
Carolyn Turner.
Here.
Chair Bob Doherty.
Here. Before the meeting begins, please silence your cell phones and note that this meeting is being recorded. First item under public hearing, it's continued to amend the 1985 zoning ordinance as amended for a proposed zoning amendment for proposed zoning as follows. 1, amend the definition of mixed-use hotel/restaurant in section 2 by inserting after 1 on the second line with or more contiguous. In addition, amend lot on the second line to lots. And 2, amend section 6 dimension regulations footnote to 6.1.6 table of dimensions regulation by adding the following footnote. 6, Woburn Landing, i.e. the parcel of land located at 369 Washington Street containing a mixed-use hotel/restaurant use. And before we start discussion on this, I'd like to make note that Carolyn Turner and Kevin Donovan have filled out and filed the proper paperwork to participate in this particular public hearing. There really isn't anyone here to speak to or ask questions to, and I know we do have a letter from the attorney, Attorney Tobby, and asking for a continuance on this. So is there anybody that'd like to speak on this particular issue at the moment? And there is no one in the public, so I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to October 8th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Claudia to continue the public hearing till October 8th, second by Dave. All those in favor? Those opposed, 7-0 carries. Second item, subdivision Marcy Street definitive. Mike Aveni is here to give us an update on what's happening with this.
Good evening, thank you. Is it okay if I plug in and show some slides to remind everybody as a kind of course refresher? Is that okay?
Please.
Thank you. Good. Awesome. Oop. Again, thank you. My name is Michael Aveni. I'm an architect with Cummings Properties. With me this evening is my colleague, Stephen Ribello, attorney at Cummings Properties as well. We're representing the Commonwealth Foundation, Commonwealth Realty Foundation on behalf of the Cummings Foundation. I can ask a question first, though. If but not for us, would you folks not have had to be here tonight?
No, we like to come. No, not at all.
Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't drag you in here when you didn't have to be here. So, thanks for having us here. I just want to kind of refresh where we're at and give the board an update and where we'd like to go with this. So, if you, many of you recall, we were in here starting in November through last March, and the board voted to approve the project with some conditions. Subsequent to that approval, we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals and they approved the lot reduction that we had asked for. Basically, we were looking to take this Lot A and make it just inside this box here and then give this section, these two pieces, to the city to remain as a buffer. So we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals in April. They said that was okay. We went to the City Council. We'd worked to get to the City Council. So the City Council voted in August to accept these two parcels. So we are pretty much exactly right where we had anticipated being. So reason why we're here tonight, I want to discuss a couple of the conditions of the project. The first condition here was that And forgive me, I hope you can all read that, and if not, I'll read it to you. The receipt of the variance from the minimum lot size requirement from the Woburn zoning ordinance, which variance authorizes lot one, as shown on the attached plan, which is, kinda winds up being back here, the smaller of to the left-hand side. So that we could build a house on the smaller lot, so we could give the other two lots to the city. The second condition was prior to the issuance of the building permit, the applicant shall have offered to the city ownership of lot two, which if we go back, let me show you where lot two is right here. So lot one is where we hope to build the home. Lot two is the piece that we worked with the city council, and they've accepted the land when we deed it to them. So, number three was prior to the issuance of the building permit, the applicant shall have offered to the city at no cost to the city all the rights, title, and interest in the right-of-way known as Marshy Street that are associated with lots one and two. So it'd be lots one and two, and this piece of land here that the applicant controls. And so, this is why we're here this evening. We have successfully navigated the legal challenges of giving away lot two, and the city would take it. We're kind of having a little bit of a challenge with the condition number three, which requires that we give area A, B, and C away in total. Some of the challenges here are that, as we understand it, that chunk, those sections of Marcy Street are indivisible from the main lots. And if we were to give that lot away, say for instance, if we were to give this chunk of area away, lot one would have no legal access, would have no street access. So we had been working with the planning director and the city solicitor on how to kind of mechanically make this happen. What is the best way that we could do this? And preserve what the goal was all along is to preserve the wooded area on lot two and preserve most of this area here in the yellow, but for the 10 or 15 feet that we were looking to carve out so that we could actually access lot one. So what we were hoping that we could discuss with the board is the possibility of going back to changing the third condition so that it becomes a more like a restrictive covenant agreement for these lots. So for instance, lot one would give up area A, lot two would, which the city would own, would, put a covenant on area B, and then the other piece of land that we own would give up area C. That way there, lot one would still have the rights to pass and repass here and actually get access to the property. I understand that as recently as a few hours ago, city solicitor, this plan comes from a memo or a letter that the city solicitor sent to the planning department and the board. And we'd like to discuss the possibility of tweaking that language.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, John?
Yeah, all the board members, you did receive a copy of that. Did you find that in your packet for tonight? Yeah. I would just like to comment real quickly on it. It's a short legal opinion from the city solicitor, and I agree with this as a manner of helping to rectify a particular situation. The restrictive covenants that he's recommending and that we amend condition of approval number 3 to reflect the language within his opinion is a pretty good solution to the issue. And he would like, if the board does take final action, for that language, the declaration of restrictive covenants to be reviewed by himself prior to recording. So that's really what's up for consideration this evening. If you take time to read that opinion, and if you have any questions, that's really what we have to deliberate on this evening. And on the backside of his legal opinion is that plan that's up on the screen tonight.
Okay, anything? Claudia?
Through the chair to John, who is drafting the declaration of restrictive covenant agreement? Is that Cummings that is drafting it and then providing it to Mark Salvati to review
Yeah.
prior to recording?
Yeah.
So essentially, the vote that is being requested is for the planning board to amend its condition to simply require a restrictive covenant agreement, a declaration of restrictive covenant agreement signed by all owners that abut those portions of Marcy Street.
I think it's,
Right.
I think actually the other two parcels on Marcy Street also have to sign that as well.
Oh, I
because they-
see.
They have the easement to pass and repass on Marcy Street as well. So it'd be not just the 3 lots that are highlighted here, but we'll have to contact these 2 folks and, which,
Okay.
to be honest, so I reached out to the neighbors, the neighbor that I've been in contact with who kind of reaches out to everybody else and explained to her what we were trying to do, and she said, hey, that's great, but she couldn't make it here, and maybe somebody else would, I don't know.
Well, presumably, if this is the way to finish this project after its kind of tortured history, kind of tortured
Yes,
history.
I appreciate
I'd
that.
imagine that the neighbors would be more than happy to help with this, to get it done and to finally get closure, right, on
And
this whole process.
thank you, and it achieves the same goal that we all set out at the very
Correct.
beginning, so.
All right. Okay, so basically, John, just back to you, the vote that is being asked for is to amend condition 3 to substitute in its place a declaration of restrictive covenant agreement signed by all owners that abut Marcy Street in order to provide the right-of-way access.
Yes, and the restricted covenant should apply to areas A, B, and C as shown in the attached plan,
Okay.
which
All right.
is on the backside.
Okay, and then in the agreement, I mean, in the vote, it would just be asked that the draft restrictive covenant agreement be provided to the city prior to everyone signing it, because obviously it's kind of late, right? If you get everyone to sign it and Mark is like, no, I think that's not right, so that would be the procedure, right?
100% agree with that, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you, I'm all set.
Anyone else? Jim?
Lot C, Area C, that's owned by New Horizon Beverly. Those are Lot A and B. Also, Lot A and B and Lot 1 and 2, are they also owned by New Horizon Beverly, same entity?
No,
So my question is similar to the abutting neighbors that are not listed in this highlighted drawing. We're putting a restrictive covenant on someone that's not an applicant. I
Fair-
know- I know it's the same entity overall,
Mhm.
but you're asking for Area C to be given up rights, and they're not an applicant.
yes, we control Area C, so
Well,
the same, realistically, it's the same.
But,
Yeah, no, fair enough.
right, so they should be afforded the same rights as the abutters of the existing properties, right?
And what would happen then, because exactly right, and they will be, they'll have the opportunity to sign off on the declaration of restrictive covenant, just like the owner of Lot 1 will, just like the owner of Lot 2 will, and just like these 2 folks were. So it's no different whether we own it or somebody else owns it. All 3 of these parties will have the opportunity to have that conversation, yes.
I want to make sure it's not being overlooked because.
Yep, fair enough, thank you.
Anyone else? More discussion? Do I have a motion?
Is there a recommendation?
Yes, the recommendation would be for the board to consider the language of the legal opinion provided this evening to board members by Attorney Salvati. And if you'd like me to read the body of it, I will. But I think you summarized it pretty well earlier, Claudia. I don't know if you'd like to make a motion to the effect of the legal opinion, but I'm in full agreement with it. And just to Jim's point, all parties of concern are going to have to agree to sign off on the covenant restrictions. And the establishment of the covenant restrictions will make certain now and forever that that particular land highlighted in the green, yellow, and purple, parcels A, B, and C, are not to be disturbed. So it becomes a permanent buffer area for the benefit of all parties of concern. And that's what the goal is, or has been for well over a year now, or close to a year.
A little over,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's an achieved goal, and I think it's worked out for everyone, and it's a manner in which the board's decision can be recorded now and forever. The restrictions are in place, and no one will have a right to disturb this particular area. And that's what the real goal has been for everybody, to live in peace and harmony with a wooded environment.
Indeed. All right, so with that in mind, I would make a motion. And the motion would be with respect to our March 13th, 2024 definitive subdivision decision. That was subject to 6 conditions. And the motion would amend condition 3. And instead of condition 3 requiring the applicant to offer to the city at no cost to the city all of the right title interest in the right-of-way known as Marcy Street that are associated with lots 1 and 2 and the parcel owned by New Horizons Beverly, the areas being referenced, areas A, B, and C. So instead of that, condition 3 would read, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall have, and then we can go here to the legal opinion, shall have accepted a declaration of restrictive covenant agreement signed by all owners in order to maintain the buffer, something of that nature. Do you see my point? Like, condition 3 will still, in some form, be in the decision, but instead of
Yes.
requiring you and Cummings's various entities to give it to us, we're requiring that prior to the issuance of a building permit, a restrictive covenant agreement in a form approved by the city will be executed by all abutters to Marcy Street, giving giving the purpose of maintaining the buffer, something of that nature.
Yep, that's fine.
Right.
Yep,
Is that where we're going with that?
that's where I'd like to go with it,
Okay.
yes, please.
So, John, do you think that you can take that word salad and put that in a form of an actual
Yep.
condition?
Yeah, I do have it written down.
Awesome, and that's my motion.
Okay, a motion by Claudia. Do I have a second?
Bob, for discussion?
Discussion after the second?
Yes. As far as the language for conveyed to the city for the purpose of maintaining a buffer, do we also want to include and to ensure that all owners that abut Marcy Street have rights to Marcy Street? I think that was sort of the intent also, as reflected in the city solicitor's letter.
That's a good idea.
And second, just to confirm or clarify in there that it will be provided to the law department for review and final approval by Attorney Salvati.
Okay, so we have a motion by Claudia. We have a second by Carolyn with an addendum added to it.
Yes.
All those in favor of that? 7-0 passes.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Hopefully, we'll be on our way soon.
Are the conditions on the Mylar? don't think so. We're just having a little side discussion here as to whether that will do it, because there is a signed subdivision Mylar, I think, for Marcy Street.
Right, the
I don't-
The Mylar hasn't been endorsed yet.
No.
Yeah, we haven't put it together yet, so we have to do an A&R plan now, right? So, will that come back here? We
Right.
haven't done,
So the A&R will reflect that, no changes.
yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Right,
so,
okay.
so you're right to, Karen was right to ask the question, like, what in the papering of this?
Nothing. We've done nothing in the papering of it
No,
so far.
well, what else needs to be
Right.
changed? Do you see my point? Like,
Yeah,
I
no, I
think we
get it,
might
yep.
be a little
Yeah.
bit premature, wishing each other a good day and good luck, that there might be some follow-on from us having accepted this recommendation between you and the city solicitor and the planning board director, right? In terms of, how we're going to be able to get you in a position to record, right?
Right. Yeah, I still think we need some other things to happen. I think probably the A&R at least has to happen.
Okay, but you haven't recorded anything.
We haven't
So we
recorded
don't have to
anything.
go
We
back
haven't-
and redo,
Right, we haven't
okay, all
done
right.
it. We've done nothing, really. We're still somewhat in limbo till we get to this step, and now hopefully the zoning board of
Okay.
appeals will accept this change, and
All
then we'll do an A&R plan, we'll get that recorded, we'll keep that with the building permit application, and then we should be good to go.
Okay, so from us, you go back to ZBA and say, okay, planning changed it
Yep.
because of here, and can you change it to?
Right.
Okay.
Well, they haven't even issued a decision yet, so city solicitor had suggested if this worked out this evening, he would have a conversation with them regarding their decision, so potentially we wouldn't have to go back to
So
them.
I will wish you luck, and perhaps we will
appreciate
see
that.
each other again.
It's possible we will, but it's, we'll
John?
never say never.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So we've agreed to the amending of the previous conditions of approval. And it's referred to in that decision, a definitive subdivision plan. Has that decision actually been made that it's a definitive subdivision plan, or is it an A&R plan?
Well, that was the only vehicle to kind of go, to get this ball rolling. And it wasn't definitive to subdivision plan, because we had to ask for some relief from some of the subdivision requirements, which would be to extend, have the full length of the street, and there were a couple other things, the curbing that we had. So there was I think there was a definitive subdivision plan in name, because that's kind of what, but we're not, I think the way to then divide the lot would be with the A&R plan.
So what I'm getting at, so that the next time this matter comes before us, it'll have everything ironed out with the city solicitor, including all of the abutters properly signing off on the restrictive covenant for parcels A, B, and C. So everything will be in order. Does the board I'm just going to ask if you anticipate, will the board want to consider at that point in time a second approval or an addendum, an approved addendum to the previous approval? Or do you want just a clean, new decision that properly references the most recently revised plan, its title, what it consists of, and also have a clean decision? And those would be for recording purposes. Does that sound good?
Well, to me, that sounds good, because that seems, we're not doing anything else to our prior approval.
Right.
Right, except changing that one condition. So instead of reading March 13th, 2024, we can date it, whatever date.
October.
October, and we can say, amended conditions, one hopes.
Because
you
that
could still
decision,
record
that
that.
decision hasn't been recorded. That's
Right,
just,
that was what I was getting at, like,
yeah.
to some extent, we're taking the subdivision approval to today.
Yeah, and what I'd rather have for the future reference of this, all this action that's been done, is that when we record a plan, it's the plan. it's not referencing any previous plan. It's going to be the plan that the planning board endorses, and there won't be any confusion of any previous plan.
Right,
And the same with the decision.
right. And it seems like there wasn't a plan that we endorsed.
Right,
The-
we didn't
We
endorse the
didn't.
plan, but the new approval letter will have, the specific date of the final plan, like, when you revise the plan, you'll have the date on the Mylar.
Okay.
And that date would be referenced in the last decision letter.
Okay,
The-
so do we need to take a separate vote so that any other conforming changes necessary to our decision we're good with, or are we
I would
just
suggest
going
that
to
we
keep it?
wouldn't have to until we have everything ironed out and it
Okay.
comes back before us. The other issue is it properly labeled definitive subdivision plan, or, does that still need to be ironed out? Whether it's an A and R plan, a lot line relocation plan,
It was an
that-
extension of the roadway, so it was more like a subdivision. They extended the roadway.
Yeah, but a subdivision is actually a subdivision of land. It doesn't really have anything to do with the roadway issues, because the roadway already exists. The roadway was already laid out as part of a subdivision. Here, we're doing certain things to that land within the right-of-way, but we're not creating further subdivision of the property. So,
Well-
you know what, I'll go over that with the
If you
city
could do that before anyone goes to the ZBA, just so that, we're
Yeah.
all on the same page, so that you don't have to do anything more than once, which I'm sure you would appreciate.
Yeah, this is the 13th meeting I've been in, which is fine. So are you suggesting that we put together the A and R plan? Because it wasn't, to John's point, we didn't really change, I don't think this plan that we presented changed the lot. Or maybe it did, because it was all one lot anyway. And we were proposing to have two lots, right? So there was a little bit of a definitive subdivision plan in that sense. And
you
in
took-
that sense, that plan will not change.
Yeah, the lot two got split off.
Right, so actually, the plan that was in front of this board had the two lots, and that's what we had, so nothing really changes from the plan. We'll do an A&R plan to formally do that, and it'll be two deeds, and then one of the, it'll be, lot two will be deeded to the city.
And I'm just thinking, we really should put some thought into this, as opposed to, is it an A and R plan or is it a subdivision plan? And, I'll talk to the city solicitor about that, and,
But
properly
in
define it.
answer to your question, I don't believe that this board really would want to see this again for any sort of purpose that is just
Further
forming.
encumbering.
Yeah, I mean, the point of coming before us was like, hey, are you okay with changing condition 3 to allow this to go forward when our condition inadvertently may have caused no access to this new lot, which is kind of not the point.
Right.
And we were good with that.
Yep.
And the ministerial decisions that need to be made in order to make that in force, I don't believe the board wishes to see that again unless my colleagues disagree.
And not that I've been tortured as long as you guys have with this plan, but I am totally in favor of simplifying the end result at this point in time.
I don't think you'll hear any dissent. All right, are we good?
Yeah.
Okay,
We're good.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It is a solution to the problem, though. It works.
Okay, so we now come to the most exciting part of the meetings, the planning staff update.
Okay, so our next meeting, Mr. Chairman, is October 8th, 2 weeks from this evening. Just real quickly, the up-to-date status with the MBTA 3A zoning amendments that we passed back at the, let's see, was that the September 17th meeting? Or that was the council's meeting, actually. The council is still deliberating, and we're trying to iron out Any questions that remain? Deliberate on any questions and issues that remain with that particular statute. The council is expected at their next ordinance committee meeting to further review, and they are looking for input from the state, which I'm working on at this point in time, the state being the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. We're trying to get their input relative to the amendment language of including up to 25% affordable housing for projects that may come in the future in accordance with the MBTA 3A overlay district. So that's per action of the planning board from our public hearing at the request of the council. So right now, I'm just waiting to hear back from the executive office and see if they agree that we could actually include that, or if they have reservations to notify us before we move to take final action as a city. So, and again, just so everybody realizes, we do have until December 31st of this year to take final action, so there's still plenty of time. That's that.
Is that open to public comment?
This evening?
It is not at this meeting here tonight.
But October 8th is?
It is not under public hearing, so you're talking about what the director was just talking about?
Yes.
It won't be that, right now, these are just updates on what's already been submitted to the city council and stuff, but in here, they're not public hearings right at the moment on this.
Right.
I'm
Is there
good.
a public hearing scheduled
Not with the planning board, no.
with the city council?
With the city
Yeah.
council,
Okay.
so you can speak at that one.
Once it's been cleared with the city council to,
It's in committee with the city council right now, so, I'm not sure, you can check with the city clerk's office tomorrow, and they'll tell you what date it will be on for to reopen the public hearing for the city clerk, city council.
Okay.
And then you have an opportunity to speak at that meeting.
okay.
It's still open with the city council, so you still have a chance to speak when it's on the agenda for the city council. And the city clerk's office can tell you that tomorrow.
I can tell you that right now. It's October 1st. That's the city council. They continued their public hearing till that date, and they commenced their meeting at 7 o'clock
Okay, thank you.
in these chambers.
Okay.
Okay, last on the update was, the director had sent out to us, seeing how we would probably have some time, and hopefully in the future, to maybe discuss and go after something. And Claudia started looking through things and came up with what I think is a great idea for us to get into. And as a matter of fact, I think everybody has a copy of the procedures governing the planning board. Well, we had, why don't I just turn this over to Claudia, since it
Sure.
was Claudia's
So,
side, yeah.
last spring and summer, when I was still the chair, as I do with all Supreme Judicial Court decisions, read a decision that came out called Barron versus Calenda. And that was a situation where, I believe it was Southborough had a public meeting, and it was some contentious issue that I don't remember what it was. And the issue that our Supreme Judicial Court decided was the extent to which the public has a right to speak at public hearings. And that right is very extensive. And in order for a chairman of a public body to contain the discussion in a principled way, it seemed to me that there would be a need for rules and procedures that would govern all meetings, as opposed to simply, being sort of spot enforced when, things might be getting a little bit, heated. Our community has always been a very respectful community. They've come before us in a very respectful way, and we in turn respect the public coming in here and want to hear their comments. But when I realized that this was a situation that in other communities had been a problem, I thought it might make sense for us to address it proactively. And when I asked Tina what our rules and procedures were, she informed me that there were none, and there had never been. And I thought perhaps it would make sense under those circumstances for us to start working on rules and procedures that govern the practice of our meeting, the procedures of our meeting. And that got to a point where there was a draft, and there are comments of, I believe, Tina and myself and Ellen Callahan-Doucette, our former city solicitor, on this draft that don't actually appear on this printout, but do appear on the Word document. And that's where it sort of sat. It never went further than that. It never came before us as a board to even have the discussion as to whether folks thought that this was a good idea or not. So when John called for projects, I remembered that this had happened and that it had sort of been left, you know, a quarter finished, and I thought it might make sense to bring that forward now. So the first question really for my colleagues here on the planning board is, you know, do folks think that it's a good idea to have written rules and procedures as to how we wish to conduct our meetings? And then if the answer to that is yes, then this draft is literally just sort of a stake in the ground, you know, our first sort of shot at it. The question would be how our members wish to go forward on this issue to, you know, figure out what we want our meetings to look like in terms of rules and procedures. So that is the project that I brought forward based on John's invitation.
Anybody want to comment?
Yeah, I had a chance to read through it, and it is really a very good draft that's been proposed. I would say it needs a little bit of tweaking and maybe an addendum relative to procedures, giving a little bit more in-depth background for some of our procedures. But other than that, it's a great idea. When I was in New Hampshire, rules and procedures of planning boards, every board has to have them in place, and they're amended from time to time, just like subdivision regs, zoning ordinances. But, you know, taken seriously, because without rules and procedures, you know, not that it's willy-nilly, we do practice good organizational procedures at meetings, but this puts it in writing and gives us black and white reference to any particular aspect of business that this planning board has the duty and responsibility to conduct. So it's a great idea. Massachusetts typically doesn't adopt rules and regulations for their committees, boards, planning boards, and whatnot, but it's a really good practice for us to consider.
When I was going through it, it's really taking what somehow, without rules and regulations, we've pretty much followed most of this. And we do it this way.
Right.
So I guess maybe that's been handed down from everybody that's ever been on the planning board for years, and they just do it. But I think it's a great, it's very important to probably have these in writing somewhere, someplace.
Yeah.
That anyone can follow and live by. And I don't know if anybody's really had a chance to read it thoroughly yet. I doubt it. You have, Carolyn?
I have not. I think
Oh,
it's a
you have
great
not.
idea,
Okay.
but I have not read through them in detail, but happy to do so. And
Well, my suggestion would be that we put this on the agenda for, say, the next meeting, assuming it's not gonna be 30 different items. And in the meantime, take what we've got, go home and look at it, and read it, and go through it. I know Claudia said she's already seen it before and made comments on it.
And in fact, the problem, I think, with this draft is that the comments aren't, you can't see them. They were comments that Tina made, that I made, and that Ellen made when we first saw it. And they are on
see
the
them
Word, can you see them online? Okay, beautiful. So that's the difference between the printed version and the online version. And this was a discussion that was never finished. So, you know, there's lots of comments on there, but there's no resolution of any of them. But, you know, to get the full flavor of what folks thought, you would have to read the comments on it.
So what we get sent online has the comments?
Yes, it should.
Okay.
There's little side bubbles.
Little side bubbles, exactly, Kevin. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. But, you know, it would be worth thinking about, you know, what works from this. Like, I believe that Tina, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, she found, like, there were some communities, like, I think Ashburnham had rules and regulations. So there were some communities that she found rules and procedures for their meetings, and then took that, and then, you know, sort of knowing how we do things, put two and two together and gave us a draft. So it should be somewhat close, but, you know, no one's seen it except me and two folks that don't work here anymore. So now it's time for perhaps our current membership to take a look and think to themselves, how would we want to see our meetings go?
Chairman?
Yes.
In one way to look at it too, it's like a crib sheet. You know, you're making proper references to the laws that we have the duty and responsibility to uphold and to act on. So that's the important part of this. One of the addendums I was thinking about while reading through it real quickly, executive session, just to have an addendum as far as the procedure, the proper draft motions, to go into executive session, what can be done within the executive session, what can't be done, and then, you know, how minutes are to be maintained. So there's a lot that we can add to this, but it would be a great reference for all existing board members, but also for any new members, you know, as an instruction sheet and how we are to conduct our meetings. And most of the time, you know, we've all been here long enough, we're conducting our meetings in accordance with the law. Otherwise, I'm sure we'd be notified that we weren't. So everything is pretty copacetic at this point in time, but to have rules and procedures written down that we can, you know, refer to as needed, it's a great idea. And, you know, I think all towns should really have this, because they do north of us. That's it.
Bob, through the chair. We of course, are happy to be leaders in
Right.
this,
Yeah.
of course. I recall back last summer that there was some either legislation or something that was at the State House level as to whether cities and towns would be required to have hybrid meetings, whether someone who wanted to participate but not be here could participate, like in the Zoom time, right? When we were having our meetings online, folks could participate and not physically be here. I don't know where that is now. I remember seeing, when I went through the comments really quickly, I saw that there was maybe a comment or two on, do we have to plan for hybrid meetings, i.e. there would be participation from people that weren't in the room as opposed, and in the room. And I don't know where that is, John. I don't know if you know.
Well, the last I heard, planning boards and bodies politics can still operate Zoom-wise, remotely, for planning board meetings, council meetings, if that's what they choose to do. Woburn doesn't, but in my past life in Georgetown, they're still conducting planning board meetings via Zoom. So we did it since the beginning of the COVID and really got proficient at it, and everybody really got comfortable at it. That everybody in town liked them because you didn't have to leave your house. And, you know, the thing with Zoom, everybody gets to look at the plan. You know, here, yeah, you do get a pretty good view from here, but out there in the audience, it's hard to see those plans. But when you're, in a Zoom format, Hollywood Squares, you know, and you're presenting the plans, everybody has a real good view of that plan, and you can zoom in, zoom out. So it worked for us. I can see a lot of communities didn't stay with it, and, you know, they're back in person. They have been almost years now. But Georgetown, we were still Zooming.
And I think that authorization goes until, I think, next year,
Yeah.
2025. But my question was a little bit different, which is, I had this idea in mind that there was some potential state legislation that would make cities and towns always be able to offer
That's the-
citizens who were unable to come here the ability to participate in a hybrid environment, and that the issue was funding to get the technology in, you know, an old city council chambers like maybe we have, in order to make that happen.
Yeah,
And then I lost complete track of that. And if that's still a live thing, then if we're going to put rules and procedures together for live meetings, if this is coming down the pike, we would want to be aware of that and maybe plan for it.
yeah, I know the hybrid aspect is for planning board members to a certain point. I think it's 1 or 2 planning board members can attend a meeting remotely. I don't know whether that goes into allowing for hybrid participation.
Would you mind finding out
Yeah.
where that is?
Yeah,
Because
no
if we are going through the trouble of making rules and procedures, we would want to maybe future-proof them so that we're not making rules and procedures for a thing that in 2 or 3 years may not be a thing anymore, which is in-person meetings only or Zoom meetings only, if we're going to be mandated to do hybrid meetings.
Bless you.
Bless you.
That sounds good. And again, I don't know right now if it's mandated that we allow for hybrid, or if we can just have, in-person meetings only. So I'll find that out for our next meeting.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Jim?
I'd like to just offer up the suggestion that we break it down into 3 or 4 of the sections that are already listed and deliberate on those only for a given night. So for our next meeting on the 8th, we took section 1 through 4, which are pretty straightforward, and either agree on the language or modify or come back to it, instead of trying to slice the whole bread, loaf of bread. We seem to get lost time to time when we get into these situations of major transcripts that we bounce around. We can close out some of the sections early and spend more time on the more definitive areas, like in section 6, probably the most intuitive. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Take it under advisement.
Taking into consideration, too, that the procedures do cite that meetings are not to go beyond 11 o'clock, which for most people these days, as we get older, is late.
We haven't had any since you left.
I'll tell you, it's really strange. In the 80s, we'd be here at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, time wasn't really a matter. And then the older you get, they start, 9 o'clock is a late meeting.
We will be on.
And I like the idea of 9 o'clock being considered a late meeting.
Yeah. To respond to Jim's comment, I think that's a great idea. However it's comfortable, to use our time and attention wisely on this so that we're able to actually complete this project and put rules and procedures into place. However, we need to work our process so that happens. Perfect.
A question, so we go through this, we adopt these, where does it go? Like, where does it go from here?
It's us. It's
It's
ours.
just ours?
Yeah, it's just ours.
So it's not, I guess it's recorded within the city because we're discussing it,
Yeah.
but in terms of, it doesn't,
Other committees may want to emulate what we're doing.
Okay.
And they would be free to do so. But, it's just for us. These are our rules and regulations. So the Conservation Commission might want to do something like that. Council, they have their own rules and regulations.
That they do. And through the chair, it certainly would be wise, once we finish another draft, to send it to our city solicitor and ask him, hey, are we good? Because we certainly don't want to do something that, puts us or the city at risk.
I guess that's kind of what I was thinking, like, does it go to the city solicitor right after it leaves steps.
I would certainly advise that prior to adoption, to engage Mark in the conversation. Yeah.
So based on all the nods of heads, that this seems like something we all want to do, progress with, okay?
Yeah, and the best part of it, we don't need anybody's approval to undertake the task. And then we just have to make sure, dealing with the city solicitor, that we didn't overstep our authority.
Excellent.
Okay.
I don't think we'll even come close to doing that anyway.
One-
We know too much.
Yeah, one hopes. But, you know, if we can undertake a chunk of it next time and a chunk of it the time after, if we have the time on our agenda, great.
That's a great idea. We can take our sweet time about it, in
Excellent.
other words.
Okay, thank you.
About 30 years.
I don't see anything else here. John, anything else?
I did put in the director's report, the Main Street project.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's just, hey, if you want to see it, it is televised, it's on our website. There's a lot going on. We haven't even gotten to the 25% design phase yet, so that's a big milestone once we get to that. And then it progresses pretty much from the 25% to the 75%, to the 100%. And, you know, that's probably gonna be 2 to 3 years out. And then, it is on the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Program for the 29-30 construction season. So we're actually on a time frame for it. It is a big project, very important project, and there's gonna be a lot of opportunity for further public review and input. So it's an open slate still, and there's plenty of time in the coming years to add input.
John, I watched it, you can't hear the audience, you guys talking, you can only hear the two people up here.
Really?
Yeah, so you might wanna fix that in the next meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, this chamber was never an acoustic masterpiece by any means. You know, so, yeah, we really should put some real effort into making sure that the audio works. I never liked the visual either, because it's kind of dark in here, you know, so,
Puts 10 pounds on me to it.
yeah.
So, if there's no other business coming before us, I will
The minutes.
entertain.
Meeting minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, good, I got ahead of myself here. So we do have some meeting minutes from September 10th.
Indeed. I just have one typo, because I just can't help myself. It's on page 2 of 4. It's in the paragraph that starts Bolgan stated.
Yeah.
In the 1, 2, 3, fourth line down, in affect versus effect. So disadvantage to the affected,
With an A.
with an A.
Thank you, Claudia.
Just, I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Grammar, please.
Yes, indeed.
appreciate it.
And that's my only change. Other than that, I would make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Motion by Claudia to approve the September 10th meeting minutes as amended. Second?
Second.
Second by Rob. Excellent, good job. All those in favor? 5-0 passes. 2 abstains.
To abstain.
And now I will entertain the ultimate motion.
All right, I'd make a motion to adjourn at 7:53.
Motion by Claudia to adjourn at 7:53. Second by somebody.
I'll second that.
Rob, you're stepping right up. Seconded by Rob. All those in favor? 7-0 passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.